I am 40conk, and today we will be doing a breakdown on the Bolt Carbine from Space Marines 2. Let's get Lauren. Upon playing Space Marines 2, you are graced with a small but vast segment of the Emperor's array of weapons to use while slaying Tyranids and Thousand Sons. Now I was curious, with all the lore in this universe, what about the weapons we are graced with? How much do we know about them? How do they function 40 or so thousand years in the future? And alongside our dive into the lore, and discuss how viable or worthwhile some doc weapons are compared to other options from the Emperor's armor, and what variants I recommend you use against your foes. Let's get lore. The Imperium before the Heresy, during the Age of Strife, was mainly using Volkite weapons. But once the spacefaring, highly technological, multi-planet society began to collapse in upon itself, with the loss of many STCs, revolts, famines, wars, diseases, and mutations. Yucky. Imagine all the goth mommies and mutations. Not a swell time. Eventually, they lost a lot of knowledge, and not just weapon, but everything in society. They needed a more easily producible weapon for the already struggling forges. From this came the Bolter, an easy to manufacture weapon that could be more widely produced in the Imperium. By the Heresy era, Volkite had largely been phased out, and even though it is very powerful, and yes, we do see it, that is largely just because of a few founding legions, such as the Dark Angels, which are known to still have old, foregone technology in their armor. But most chapters don't have the necessary knowledge or ability to replicate them. So by this point in the 41st millennium, they are relics of a bygone era. Hence why we see them very little comparatively, and they have very little variety comparatively. Now you may be wondering, why don't guardsmen have bolters? Well, Astartes bolters, specifically, have a biometric lock looking for genetic markers to know when Astartes is wielding the weapon. This is to protect a human from shooting an Astartes design variant, which could break wrists, shoulders, etc. There are human design variants for the dummies of battle, and other special units that somehow also shoot the same .75 caliber with less recoil, such as the Nemesis, Rare Team, Locke, and Mark II Scourge. But they are more expensive and logistically challenging than lasguns with their rechargeable power packs and low maintenance needs. Hence why only Adeptus Sororitas really wield them in large numbers. I must also include that in lore, while being master-crafted, they require a lot of cleaning, prayer, and maintenance, a lot more than lasguns. So to appease the weapon spirit, regularly it must be disassembled, cleaned, have some sacred oils applied, and everything properly torqued. The Bolt series of weapons fires a self-propelled missile with a mass reactive charge, exploding upon entering the target for maximum damage, or impact if hitting a surface it cannot penetrate. Although there are many different ammo types and variants, not all are mass reactive or explosive, and serve a variety of purposes. Standard anti-personnel ammo has a deuterium core and a diamantine tip with a mass reactive charge, which appears to be the only ammo type in Space Marines 2. Bolter fires .75 caliber or 19mm, which is the size of my Integra's lug nuts, in a similar way to that of modern firearms with a gas-cycled mechanical firing pin operation, with presumably a bolt carrier of some sort judging by animations in Pariah Nexus. The Sister of Battle fights my all-favorite Kriegsman. As for bolter fires, you see the, bolt carrier move back with an extractor to that similar to modern firearms that upon firing uses the gases from the firing as rearward force upon the bolt carrier, driving it back into an extractor, knocking it out, and then allowing the cycle to continue as it rechambers the next round coming forward from the spring. Next, a magazine, which is connected to the bottom of the bolter casing, feeds bolts up into the feed ramp, as I was saying, to be caught on the bolt carrier. Some bolters are single shot, but it seems most have different firing modes, such as single shot and 3-round burst, or single and full auto, and it just seems to depend on the application, but usually they have more than one firing option. There are many bolter variants, some created with specific purpose and some for versatility, but most of them are sparsely heard about, and there are many, but for our sake, this will be the end of that. The Bolt Carbine holds 30 to 40 rounds, depending on quality, in a sickle-shaped magazine and fires smaller, less powerful, and range-effective bolts. And it is designed to be more maneuverable, because, Space Marine needs more maneuverability out of a gun smaller than their arm, and it is designed for close quarters with a smaller weapon casing and shortened barrel. Prior to the heresy, it was used by the 16th Legion, the Sons of Horus, in his exclusive Reaver attack squad for close-range skirmishes, and by Primaris Reaver assault squads in the 41st millennium. The Bolt Carbine features a front grip for additional stability, making it a notoriously easy-to-handle weapon amongst Astartes. It has a muzzle brake hole straight through the barrel and 2 air cooling slots along the casing where the barrel is to allow for cooling and release of pressure. Now there are a few different versions of the Bolt Carbine, such as the Oculus, Instigator, Angelus, which it's not a direct successor, but it is a small casing purpose designed wrist-mounted bolter for the Blood Angels, including their unique Blood Shard shells, which have a razor filament, as well as the Marksman variant, which somehow makes this even more weird. Speaking of weird, the Heretic Abyssal, aka the Heretic Bolt Carbine. It has a knife or bayonet resembling a karambit as a bayonet foregrip attachment, and along with this, much more jagged edges and chaos-themed furniture. Creative are the Heretics with their edgy heresy. For our in-game comparison, we're going to use Sangors because Hormigons have weird multipliers, and Tyranid Warrior Majoris enemies on Substantial for comparison's sake, as it was the middle difficulty and one of the most common enemies. Enemy health is scaled to difficulty, adding additional shots for the kill to be earned on higher difficulties. On Substantial, Majoris have 223.3 points of health, and Sangors have 31.9. Something a scholar would note, that means fucking listen, aspirant, is enemies have body part multipliers, and for sake of ease, we are not going to go over those here, but, for example, a Tyranid Warrior has a 2x to the head, which makes a massive difference when you are running at it, trying to get some pre-melee damage in before you get up to it. The Bolt Carbine can only be used by tactical and sniper, and in the Bolt Carbine stock form, it has 30-round magazines and a reserve of 240 rounds, and a damage of 3.2, and a fire rate of 600, with a max spread of 4 at the hip and 2.5 while aiming, with 3.94 degrees of recoil. Overall, it is inaccurate, but with its quick fire rate, in short bursts, it becomes much more manageable, but definitely meant for up-close running and gunning. For a Tyranid Warrior, we are looking at 70 shots, and for a Sangor, about 10 to 11. Not great, because you're definitely going to be missing some shots from the spread and recoil, and damage is only okay, but it's definitely usable. It's definitely better than the Auto Bolt Rifle, or the Heretic Hugger, which is a new name I just gave it, which, go look at my other video I just made, if you would like to see the patheticness of the Auto Cuck Rifle. Nonetheless, the Mastercrafted variant has an increased 3.52 damage and decreased spread, with a max of 3.4 at the hip and 2.13 while aiming, and 3.15 degrees of recoil. This is the beginning of fixing the accuracy problem, and you get a little pinch of damage for not being too greedy of the on-size offerings. For a Tyranid Warrior, we are looking at about 64 shots to kill, and for a Sangor, 9 to 10. Definitely a nice little stepping stone for your troubles, but we're not done. The Artificer tier is where you're going to be spending a lot of time as you work through that 17k XP to get to the other side, and thankfully it is not too painful and you are rewarded well for your efforts. The Artificer has 2 options, the Salvation of Baka and the Dogo Reclamation. They both have a damage increase of 4.16, so for a Tyranid Warrior, 54 shots, and a Sangor, 8. My choice, the Baka, has a further accuracy increase of 2.8 at the hip, and while aiming 1.75 over the Drogos, which has a stock spread and recoil, but an increase of 6 rounds per magazine, and a total increase of 48 in reserve. I think either choice here can work depending on how aggressively you play. For example, as a tactical, I'd maybe prefer the additional ammo, and since I'll more likely be in the fray of melee, where shooting is less pretty and aimed, but much more quick and frantic, between parries and swings, I would say the accuracy gains are less worthwhile. But this can also apply to snipers if you are aggressive with your combat knife, so this is kind of your call, but I would say the accuracy has more versatility at least. But you have quite a few games to decide as you work on getting that weapon XP to unlock Relic tier. Congrats, your grind is almost over. You are Relic tier. Again, you have 2 options with the same increased damage. of 5.12. So we are getting somewhere, taking 6 to 7 shots for a Sangor and 44 for a Tyranid Warrior. Ophelian Liberation, which has a stock accuracy and recoil, but an increase of 10 rounds per magazine for a combined 40 rounds per mag, with a total sum of 320 in reserve. Or the Galthalamore Crusade, with a further accuracy increase. The hip max spread is 2.2, and while aiming 1.38, with a recoil of 1.58. And remember, this thing has 600 RPM with 30 round mags and 240 in reserve. This thing becomes a damn high-speed laser beam with headshots, which I know we aren't taking into account here because of the multiplier, but you motherfucking better, because that 2x headshot makes this thing slap. It mops. It tickles Tyranids in the best way, which is why, as you guessed, this is my choice for the best gun. You know me, I hate spread, but as I said with the last one, depending on your playstyle and which gun you preferred on your Artificer grind, that might hint on which one you're going to prefer out of these two. Both are definitely usable. That damage is bulky. Now, with all relic tier weapons, since they're the tier best version, we are going to see how many shots it takes to kill the same two enemies on the hardest difficulty. They both have the same health for Ruthless, Lethal, and Absolute, with the Tyranid having 308 health, taking 61 shots, and the Sangor, with 44 health, taking about 9 shots. This is why I call the auto bolt rifle the cuck of tactical primaries. Like, go ahead, try to make it feel better, but at the end of the day, he's going to take his seat in the executive cuck suite, where Now, for maximization of your weapon, you should get as many perks as you can. So you either need to buy and master all variants, or just use your armory data to buy mastery for all variants. I would recommend doing this to get the most out of your weapon. So you're going to go top row until you hit the headshot perk, and then go down to extended mag, and then down again for the 10% damage. Now from here, you're going to follow out the bottom row. You end up with fast regen, rapid health, 10% damage for headshots, 15% extended mag, 20% damage overall, and 20% reserve ammo increase. Doing 6.144 damage on Substantial, a Tyranid Warrior would take you 36 to 37 shots, and a Sangor 5 to 6 shots. Now on Ruthless and Lethal, or Absolute, a Tyranid Warrior with 308 health will take you 51 shots. Sangor with 44 health will take you 7 to 8 shots. So you might not have seen my last video about the auto bolt rifle, and if you haven't, please go back and do so, and learn just how far from the Emperor's Blessing a bolter can fall. Maxed out to the best, it takes a whopping 103 bolt rounds, almost double the bolt carbine, with similar accuracy and a lower 400 RPM. Again, the cuck of tactical primaries rears its head just to be made fun of and laughed out of the room in comparison to others. This has been 40 Conk bullying the auto bolt rifle again and covering the bolt carbine. Till next time, bye.